Hello, guys. Welcome back to Final Whistle Sports. Today, we're back with the mock draft Monday again. A lot of changes have happened in the NFL. A lot of different things in the draft process have happened since we last recorded one. So, I'm excited for this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. I think I got the first pick last time. So, Jeremiah, you can go ahead and get the first pick this time.
All right. Well, since we've seen that the Titans have looked like they're really locking down on that Cam Ward pick, I don't think there's anywhere else to go. They've canceled their interviews with everyone else. I think we got to go Cam Ward to the Titans here for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear now, and I'm guessing they think he can turn that franchise around. So, I mean, I doubt they'd pass up on the opportunity to grab him there at one. At number two, we've got the Cleveland Browns. Excuse me, got the Cleveland Browns here. I feel like Travis Hunter would be filling a pretty strong need for them. They have needs at both receiver and corner. It might look like their secondary is not that bad, but they do have a lot of expiring contracts on the defensive end. So I'm going to go with Travis Hunter here. I think, in my opinion, he's the best receiver in this draft and arguably the best corner. So I think you're getting a can't miss prospect.
Yeah. And with this Giants pick, we've been seeing a lot of Shadur slides. So while you could argue that with the first two picks, Shadur still being on the board, the Giants would take their guy of the future. Honestly, I think you just got to go with the Camus prospect here. I think Abdul Carter is just a much better prospect than Shadur, and we've been seeing Shadur slide down draft boards a lot. So I'm going to go with Abdul Carter here.
Yeah, Abdul Carter is definitely best player available, but it's just a thing of thought for the Giants. It's like their defensive line might not be the most effective in the league, but they have a lot of big names there. You do have Kayvon Thibodeau, who was not great this season, but and Brian Burns was good, and you just put a big contract into him. You have one of the best defensive linemen in the league, and Sexy Dexy, but you kind of think like, I don't know, would they want to invest what's it called? A first round pick into a defensive lineman after just drafting Kayvon Thibodeau not too long ago. But I think at this point in his career, he did have some cleanup sacks the second year, but I feel like at this point, it kind of feels like he's not someone that you draft around him. So yeah, I definitely don't mind that pick for sure. With the Patriots here, for me, it's probably going to be offensive line here, and I think I'm just going to go with the best offensive lineman available. I'm not sure about drafting Will Campbell this high just because of the potential to move into guard, and drafting a guard at 4 is just not really likely to happen. But I do think he's athletic, regardless of his measurements or his size, whatever concerns people have. He was the best offensive lineman in college football this past year. So I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL, regardless of where he plays. It's just a question of if teams value him highly enough to take him at this 4 spot. But yeah, I think he's still deserving of that pick.
Yeah, and honestly, I completely agree. Regardless of his arm length measurements or whatever, tape wise, he was just the best looking lineman in my opinion. And anytime he did get beat, it didn't really seem like it's something he said himself. It didn't really seem like it was a problem of length. Like he looked like a guy that fit in the tackle position.
Mm-hmm.
So up next with this Jack spot, it's gotten a little bit harder. I mean, early on we were just kind of straight up saying Mason Graham,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
like you wouldn't be necessarily against.
Tyler Warner.
Yeah, you wouldn't be necessarily against the Tyler Warren or just a weapon for Trevor Lawrence. Even theoretically in Ashton Genty, if you're not confident in Trevor or Travis Etienne this year.
They do have Tanks Bigsby there, so maybe give him a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
you're right. You're right.
Bro, yeah.
I think safest pick here for me is Mason Graham just because of the positional value. I'd say that taking a tight end in the top 5 could still be considered a little bit taboo, I guess. I mean, it happened with Kyle Pitts, and you see how that's panned out. So I don't
Yeah.
know if teams would be necessarily hesitant to do something like that. So I'll go with Mason Graham here.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely a solid pick. I think it would have been fun to maybe switch it up a little bit, maybe go Tyler Warren. I think while Kyle Pitts was a unicorn, I think Tyler Warren has a lot more physicality in his game, which is kind of like what I personally like to see from a college tight end. More physicality in your game so you can translate to the next level. But yeah, I think Tyler Warren wouldn't be a terrible pick there at all. But yeah, I definitely understand Mason Graham. It's a safe pick. probably what I think is going to happen the most. For this Raiders pick, I feel like it's a lot of people say it's going to be Ashton Genty, and I completely understand that. But I really do think Jahdae Barron could be in play here. I mean, he's my favorite DB in the draft. And he may not be a boundary just because I've been reading into it. Apparently, colleges, they'll boost players' heights. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, he
apparently,
really is like 5'11".
no, he's not 5'11.
He's not?
He's not 5'11.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
he was. I thought he
no,
was listed as 6 foot, and he's actually
no.
5'11".
He's listed as 5'11, but he's not really
Okay.
5'11. So you're probably looking at him more as a nickel or a guy that can almost play in other areas of the field, kind of like a Cooper DeJean kind of thing. And in previous years, right, you're saying we're not taking a nickel in the top 10, right? But, I really do think like Jahdae Barron, or sorry, excuse me, players like Cooper DeJean, Brian Branch, they can change that because of how big of an effect they had on the defenses that they were a part of this year. I would love to go to Jahdae Barron here, but this is a mock draft, not what I want to happen draft. So I will go with Ashton Genty with the 6th overall pick.
And especially with the money you see that the Bears just threw at Kyler Gordon, teams
Yeah.
are starting to value the slot corner position a lot more now. So I
Sure.
think it definitely is a possibility.
Yeah.
Now with this Jets pick, this is another possible spot where you could see Shadur land. But the Jets, oh sorry, absolutely not. I completely forgot they've signed Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean,
So
possibly. Maybe they maybe want a safety blanket if it doesn't go right, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see it with him paying them $20 million a year, which isn't insane money in today's day and age, but it's still decent enough money. I don't think they're going to go with a QB in the first
Yeah.
round at least. Maybe in the second round you can see them take a Jackson Dart if he falls to the second round.
Yeah.
But definitely not like with a top 10 pick. And
Mhm.
just saying this, when did they update their rankings? Because I don't remember Walter Nolan being this high up on here.
Yeah, they've updated their rankings because Tedero McMillan was also not the third best player in the draft.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is different. I think it's definitely well updated. I don't know about T Mac jumping, but Membu definitely should have been a lot higher, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And so with them, assuming that they think that Fields is their guy of the future, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to build around him. Their offensive line could obviously use some help, and so I think that a good pick here would be Armand Membu, like you mentioned. We saw his performance at the combine. He's an athletic freak, and even though he has kind of the problem with his whole first round class of the shorter arms, I don't really think that's necessarily that big of an issue.
Yeah. I mean, maybe teams think it's that big of an issue, but you look at an athlete like Armand Membu, it wasn't just the combine. Like a guy like Matthew Golden ran 4.29. I know he doesn't have 4.29 speed, but Armand Membu, his athleticism, you can see it on the tape. So yeah,
100%.
I really think I like that pick a lot. Right here, it's been a popular spot for a lot of people for Ted McMillan or Jalen Walker. So I think Jalen Walker could definitely be a leader in this defense. He has the versatility, the potential to play off ball, and maybe also be like a third down pass rusher as well. Fill that Frankie Louvu role. But yeah, I think actually no, I am going to go with Jalen Walker. I really like him a lot as a prospect. Great athlete. Really great character. Everyone in the Georgia camp teams have been reporting about it, how they really like how Jalen Walker's interviewed. And I think this defense just needs a face. I mean, J.C. Horn is obviously a great corner. They just paid him. But, you're usually looking for a guy in the front seven historically, and maybe outside of the Legion of Boom. But a lot of times the face and the leader of the defense is in the front seven, and especially at the linebacker position, that's pretty common. So I think Jalen his name always throws me off. Jalen Walker could be, a franchise piece for the Panthers. They're trending in the right direction with the development of Bryce Young. So I think their defense is one of the worst in the league. Their offense definitely turned it up at the end. So I think you got to prioritize defense here in the first round.
Yeah, and going back to that defensive leader point, I think you could for sure see that when they lost Brian Burns. I think that I'm not going to say that was a bad move for them because they did get draft capital with that, but I think for sure you could feel a difference in the way their defense was coming on the field once they were without Brian Burns' presence. And so I like that pick. At this same spot, I don't want Shadur to fall too far. So I would like to take Shadur here with Derek Carr's situation. We don't really know what's going to happen there. He was
you heard what happened, right?
No, I didn't.
His shoulder is like seriously jacked up. Like he might miss a
Really?
big chunk of the season. So I think this
Okay.
pick makes even more sense now.
Yeah, especially with that.
Yeah. So right here, the Bears. Some people really do like Omarion Hampton a lot. I am one of them, but I think this might be a little bit high. Walter Nolan is definitely in play here. I'm not really looking at safety as much, but left tackle is definitely something that the Bears could upgrade. Um, so for me, it's probably between maybe like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan, but I think I'm gonna go tackle, and the tackle that, ooh, this is interesting. You could go edge. Their defensive line just needs work in general, but I think I'm going to go with, in my opinion, my favorite tackle in the class. I think he would have given Will Campbell a serious run for his money on the Offensive Lineman of the Year award. He looked incredibly athletic, and I just think personally that he projects to be the best tackle in this class just based off of his tape. He dealt with athletic players very well. And that's the one criticism that some people have of Will Campbell is sometimes with more bendy edge rushers he struggled. But Josh Simmons was near flawless in the 5 or 6 games that he played before tearing his patellar tendon. And the way he's looked in his workouts since, 5 or 6 months off of a patellar tendon tear, and he looks that good. I think that's a really good sign. So I really am a big fan of Josh Simmons. This might be a slight reach, but I'll go with Josh Simmons here.
And do you know what his timeline is right now for him to come back?
I think he'll be ready for the beginning of the season. He's already on the field, so
Okay.
he's already doing field work. He did some work at the pro day, so yeah.
Speaking of which, we also saw some Stephon Diggs footage of him training, and he looks still pretty athletic. Still has
Yeah,
a lot of burst, and it's crazy. Just a couple months off of ACL surgery.
yeah, it's crazy.
But next up with this Niners pick, this one's kind of a no-brainer for me. I mean, they need some help in their secondary, and Jahdae Barron's my favorite. Well, maybe not my favorite, my second favorite DB in this class. And I think he can do anything. He can play safety, boundary, or slot. And like you said, with his size, he'll likely be seen in a slot role or maybe even safety. I doubt it, but he'll probably be seen in a nickel role.
Yeah,
So I like him there a lot.
yeah. So for this Cowboys pick, you could definitely go wide receiver. I think Mike Green is a very Cowboys pick. So that's the pick I'm going to go with. I think Mike Green, we saw it at the Senior Bowl. He was dominating the whole time while he was there. And so, yeah, I really do like what he put on film there. And his whole year at Marshall. I mean, the guy, he used to be a wide receiver. Wide receiver, I think. I think he was a wide receiver. Yes, I think so. And he bulked up, and he didn't really lose the athleticism. So he's really a freak. I think this Cowboys line could definitely need some help. They lost Tank Lawrence, and the one thing you don't want to do to your defensive star players is have them isolated on the line. The Chiefs, some of their performances dropped throughout the rest of the D line. Chris Jones struggled because they were able to double team him even more just because Charles Omenihu was hurt. So, you like to have a good amount of depth because it's really easy to isolate an elite defensive lineman whenever there's no help on the rest of the line. So I think they got to steer clear of that so they can keep Micah Parsons at his best.
And this is another position where I like to take a DB. We've talked about with the loss of Javon Holland a lot, how we usually take a Jahdae Barron here. So you could argue for a Malachi Starks, but honestly, I do want to switch it up a little with the rise of Walter Nolan's draft stock, especially with his draft interviews going so well. I'm happy to take Walter Nolan here. They need some help on the interior. Their entire defense could use some help, so I like Walter Nolan in this spot.
Yeah, and I think you could seriously argue that Walter Nolan is a top 10 player in this class. I mean, the potential is through the roof. The physical tools are also through the roof, and he did produce this year pressures wise. He definitely had a much better year than we saw at Texas A&M. So, yeah, I don't hate that pick at all. Maybe a little bit higher than what other people are saying, but with what's been happening in these draft interviews, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But yeah, this is another one of the easiest picks in the draft. Tyler Warren. I mean, yeah, I think that, like we said, Anthony Richardson needs a safety blanket. This is his make or break year. And Tyler Warren, like, he was a walking big play, one of the best red zone threats in the country in big games, taking wildcat quarterback snaps and taking the ball for 45 yards on the ground. I mean, he's a walking big play. He's a walking touchdown. You watch him and you can just, it's like someone I call, he's just a football player. So when you watch him, you know. So yeah.
And I like, especially, I'm a big fan of some of the guys in their receiver core. And I like how Tyler Warren, he's obviously throughout his entire college career has been the guy that
Yeah.
defenses are targeting and highlighting. So with him having that experience, I think it makes it a lot easier for some of those guys like Josh Downs or Alec Pierce to get less looks on them. Sorry?
AD Mitchell. Don't forget
Him
about
too. Get less looks on them and just get them open more because I think they have a lot of potential in this receiver core, especially Josh Downs.
We didn't even say Michael Pittman, but yeah. I really think Anthony Richardson really did mess with his production this year.
That's fair.
Yeah. Because those Josh Downs slot fades were money and AR was chucking it. So hey, Josh Downs slot fade has to be one of the best.
What's the name? AR will chuck anything up to Alec Pierce.
Yeah, and Alec Pierce getting his post and his goals. It's just, hey, Michael Pittman runs the intermediate routes. He's going to suffer. So.
Oh, I've got this big.
Yeah,
and
they definitely need some help at DB too as well, if that's something that.
Yeah. And so that has me between two guys. With the guy, they're both right there. You can see Malachi Starks and Jahad Campbell. I know they do need DB help, but I think they also need linebacker help. And Jahad Campbell's by far my favorite linebacker in this class. I love seeing his athleticism on tape, but I also love Malachi Starks, what we've seen on tape, his versatility, and just I think I like to go with Malachi Starks here.
Malachi Starks, okay, yeah. I think maybe it's more corner focused need wise, but yeah, their GM is a little weird. He hasn't drafted front seven in the first round in a long time, so it might not be Jahad Campbell there. But yeah, for me, this pick is going to be a bit easier. You know, you look at Will Johnson's 2023 tape, it's fantastic. Whether you like him or not, people don't like him because he's not testing. People don't like him because he's not doing stuff. But you look at that 2023 tape, and he is an instinctive corner. He knows what he's doing. His arms are a bit short, but he's a technician. Some could argue he's the best corner in this class. A lot of people do think that. I used to be one of them, but I probably would take Travis Hunter now. But, I mean, Will Johnson is an excellent player. I think his stock –
There's a reason he has the name value he has.
Will Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. His stock has fallen a little bit just because of the lack of testing and the injuries and all that tackling for some people. But I do really think that he's a fantastic player still because measurables, injuries, yes, I get all that. But you just watch him play. You know he's a good football player.
And here with the Bengals pick, I'm honestly just looking for the best defensive player on the board because they could use help in a lot of positions. So you could either go with Jahad Campbell or Kenneth Grant here. Usually I like to take Kenneth Grant at this spot, but wait, can you scroll down a little bit? Who was that hyphenated name?
It was Omar Norman Lott. He's probably they just changed up the rankings a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Shamar fell off. That's crazy.
Where is Shamar?
He was up there. He was like 33.
Oh, okay. Nick Gordon's ahead of him now. Okay. Sorry, continue.
But yeah, I like to switch it up and give Jahad Campbell a spot here. I think having him as a leader on their team would be good at the Mike spot. With his movement and his tackling ability, I have no doubt that he can be a great player in their defense and hopefully lead them to being slightly better this year.
Okay. For me, I think this is maybe not a pick a lot of people are hearing. Once again, Seahawks GM has some tendencies. He doesn't like to draft positions that aren't the most valuable. So, guard, stuff like that. Interior offensive line, which it is their most. What'd you say?
I said off-ball linebacker.
Off-ball linebacker, yes, thank you. Just even though it is their biggest need, I really do still think there's a chance he doesn't take it. And for me personally, I think one move that he could take to supplement their offense, I know all of the fans have been saying it, and I think that there is no way that the GM does not know that a pairing of JSN and Cooper Kupp is incredibly redundant. And I think that a guy is not the same profile as either of them is very clearly Tedero McMillan. I think that yeah, he is a big bodied receiver, good in the air. He's okay at the catch point. I'd like him to be a little bit better, but you could definitely say he's the best wide receiver in his class. I did see something. It was like maybe 60% of his yards came like against like some really bad schools.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, he did have what
yeah,
400 yards against New
yeah.
Mexico State.
Yeah, New Mexico State, like 200 against Texas Tech. Texas Tech was one of the worst pass defenses in the Power Five and the country, or Power Four, excuse me. But yeah, I do think T Mac is still going to be a good player, and he fits that team well because they do need more of a JSN is a threat downfield. Don't get me wrong, but he's still more of an intermediate guy. So get more of a threat downfield. I think he complements Cooper Cup as well as JSN.
Hey, why not just take a Mecca and get 3 slot guys in the same offense?
That would be very funny. Yeah.
But with this Bucks pick, I think we're honestly just gonna go straight defense here. I like Donovan a lot. I've been seeing a lot more of his tape recently, and I've been more of a fan of him because I didn't really hear his name that much throughout the season. I didn't pay much attention to Boston College, so I think I'd be happy with taking that pick here. I think he's the best defensive player on the board here. Maybe, well, yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Okay.
No, we're not taking Omarion Hampton.
I don't know why you're acting like Omarion Hampton isn't a first round pick for many people. But yeah, like I always say on every mock draft, 6', 220, 4.4 speed. And whether you like it or not, he played at a Power 4 school, which is why I understand some people like him more than Ashton Genty. And let me just make sure, down the stretch of the season, Omarion Hampton was some could very much argue he was better than Ashton Genty for like a 3-week stretch. So yeah, I really do think Omarion Hampton is a fantastic prospect. Broncos fans that think that, oh, because he's a UNC running back, we shouldn't take him, just please be quiet.
Just like the
Because
Ohio State QBs.
exactly, I don't care. So yeah, Omarion Hampton, I think it's a fantastic pick. This team needs a running game, and they've definitely improved their defense a lot. That was already elite. So that's pretty crazy to me. This team, for taking Bo Nix at 12 last year, they're in a fantastic spot. I think they're one of the sleeper teams in the AFC, and I think supplementing the offense with the run game as well as maybe some receivers later on in the draft, I think it would be huge for them.
Yeah, this next Steelers pick is an interesting one.
Yeah, Tomlin has been talking about a D tackle a little bit, but yeah.
Okay. And so you have to think that at some point we've got to get something done about the QB situation. We haven't heard any news about Aaron Rodgers yet.
I think you haven't heard any news, but there's been some decent reporters that have been saying he's made his decision, and it's pointing towards Steelers because they said he had a very productive visit with the Steelers.
Yeah. And I mean, he doesn't have many other options, honestly. So I doubt that they will go QB if those reports do come to fruition. And so with you saying that they are likely to take a D tackle, I'm not mad at them taking a D tackle. I think D tackle would be a good position to tackle at this spot. And so I'm a cornball. And so let's go with Kenneth Grant, the best guy on the board.
Yeah. I do think, I think that's a great pick. I do think Milroe in the second round could be in play because everything has been coming out that Tomlin has had some very great meetings with him. But yeah, you definitely could go with the 2 receivers here for the Chargers. I think Ladd McConkey, while he did play very well in the slot, I think he has the traits to be an excellent outside receiver. I feel like a lot of people, just because he's white, they just say he's a slot receiver when he showed a lot of traits of being a great, a great outside guy. So you see the wide receivers here, you could definitely go with that. I think Luther complements them well. I'm kind of leaning towards Colston Loveland just because of that Michigan connection. But this is an interesting pick for me. I think I do go Luther Burden here just to switch it up a little bit from our previous mock drafts. I think Luther complements the Chargers very well. He's an intermediate guy, but he also has that deep threat. But he's a thick slot receiver that is very, very explosive, very good after the catch. So I do like Luther in this spot.
Yeah, I mean he is thick. He's a good like 5'10", 210.
Yeah, there are some
So
there are some character concerns though, because apparently his mom is difficult to deal with, and then he has this legal situation that just came up. But we'll have to see how that develops more and see if he's really falling. But yeah,
yeah. And so with this Packers pick, they've got the reputation of having
wow. Hold on.
uh what are
Ooh,
you looking for?
Michael, 38.
38. He was like 12 before, wasn't he?
Uh huh.
It's
I think
crazy.
this would be my pick there, but yeah, go ahead.
But the Packers have this reputation as the team with a bunch of wide receiver twos. And so if you had a guy like Tet or Luther at this spot, I really would not be mad at going for that. I mean, Matthew Golden's not uh, a bad pick here necessarily, but I don't think he's a guy that stands out enough to
Yeah,
be a consistent one in a spot where you have too many twos. So I think edge is the spot where you'd want to go here. And he gave his pick in Michael Williams, but I think I'm a bigger fan of Shamar Stewart and his lack of production, sure, but his athleticism is obviously off the charts. And I think a lot of that lack of production can be chalked up to
his
A
role.
and M being A and M. Sorry.
A&M being A&M, but also his role on the defense. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times, like when I watch full games on tape of him, like sometimes he's actually just being asked to play. He's not playing linebacker, but sometimes he's really like setting the edge and playing contained completely.
Yeah.
So I really do think it's not all his fault. But yeah, you could definitely say that Michael is toolsy, very toolsy as well. He's huge. He's quick. He's got he still has to develop more a little bit as well, like Shamar. Shamar still has to develop as a pass rusher because I think sometimes the big knock on him is that he just doesn't have as much of a plan. Some people say, but yeah, I do like the pick for sure. Vikings here. I'm definitely gonna go safety. You just lost Cam Bynum, and you have one of the most 67. Wow. Andrew Makuba is a baller, though. You have one of the most athletic players in the draft, 6'3", 220, moved like a monster. At the combine, he went crazy. But throughout the year, he put his athleticism on tape. And, his coverage skills could get a little bit better, but I do think Nick Eman is a good guy to try and replace with. Defensive line-wise for the what's it called for the Vikings. I just feel like you just took Dallas Turner and then you brought in Jonathan Grenard. I don't know if they're ready to invest their first round pick in the defensive line position. So I'll go with Nicky Manwari.
All right. And with this Texans pick, I mean, we've seen that Tank Dell will be out for likely, you said this entire season, right? And maybe even creeping into next season.
Mhm.
And so I think the Texans here, you could target to take a guy that can fill in his slot role. Tank took like almost 70% of his snaps from the slot, especially when Nico Collins was healthy. So I wouldn't be mad at a Emeka pick here.
Golden can play in the slot as well, but yeah.
That's fair, but I think Emeka is definitely more of a solidified slot
Yeah.
guy that can win in the slot. Um, and then there's also the argument of beefing up the O line, especially the interior. So you could think of a guy like Gray Zabel here.
And
I wouldn't. Sorry.
they traded Tunzel as well, so the exterior as
Yeah.
well.
And so it's really just an argument of whether or not, or which prospect you think is more surefire between Emeka Ibuka and Kelvin Banks. And I think I've got to go with Kelvin Banks more off of positional value. I mean, I think he had a very great season last year. I think he had really almost a perfect season, even in the Georgia game, which a lot of people criticized him for. I still saw plenty of flashes in there. I still saw plenty of snaps where he was winning very well against Jalen Walker, which would have been better if what's his name? Quinn had any form of pocket presence. But yeah, I like Kelvin Banks for that spot a lot.
Yeah. So right here, you could definitely go with Maxwell Harrison here. Linebacker, I'm not really looking at anybody. Tackles, I mean, other than I mean, Josh Connerly could definitely go here. Donovan Jackson, I think, is a first round talent. Grace Abel is playing guard or center, so he's just not a tackle anymore. But for me personally, I mean, I really do love Colston Loveland to this team. The Rams are in a win now mode, and they definitely do need help on the back end. And you can't ignore that concern. But I do think with Colston Loveland almost being like the slot receiver type, I think this could be like the hype on Dalton Kincaid was insane. I feel like if he goes to a Sean McVay offense, this could be like Dalton Kincaid fully unlocked. So I'd really
Mhm.
be excited to see him there with already a very potent pass offense. I think it would be really cool to see. But you could definitely make the argument that they do need help on the back end.
I love Dalton Kincaid. I hope he
Yeah,
takes the next step this year.
yeah, he did. The Bills' scheme isn't the most catered to him, but he definitely did have a disappointing year with some
Yeah,
drops.
and I mean he got. I think he led the team in targets as well.
Yeah,
So
he
like,
did.
I don't. Yeah. With this upcoming pick, there's a lot to think on. This is a spot where I like Nicky Manwari a lot. Obviously, he's not on the board.
Yeah,
Um, we spoke on Maxwell Harrison. They could use the DB help
that
there.
would be one of the fastest corner duos I've ever seen. Nate Wiggins and
Really?
Maxwell Harrison. What Nate Wiggins is 4'3".
Yeah, he's. Yeah,
He's
no, he
four.
didn't touch 4.2, but he's 4.3. That's a 4.3 guy with a high 4.2 guy. That's
Yeah, it's insane.
insane. And there are a lot of good edges still on the board, though.
Yeah,
Can you check that out? I
JPJ,
know Mike Green for
JPJ,
sure, Nick Scorin, James Pierce. Yeah, we're going with James Pierce Jr. Yeah,
James
no,
Pierce here. Yeah,
he's a great talent.
great talent for sure. So that would have been my pick for the Lions, because the Lions really do value production. I think if they had the first overall pick, they're not taking Trayvon Walker. They're taking Aiden Hutchinson again. Uh, yeah. Here for the Lions, there's still edges on the board. Michael Williams is still here, and I do not think you can pass up on him at this spot. He doesn't have the production that they're probably looking for, but he can be developed so much more. He has all the physical tools, and he's really shown flashes of being a refined pass rusher. There's still a lot to work on, but he's a draft prospect. It's going to be that way. So, yeah, but I do like the pick here. Matthew Golden definitely would be in play for me, but I'm just not sure if he goes there.
All right, and with this spot, really just get Jaden Daniels any sort of help anywhere you can. So I'm just taking the best offensive player on the board, in my opinion. Give me a Mecca.
Yeah, I do think they took off wide receivers in need after the signing of Debo Samuel. I think Debo Samuel showed you who he is this season. I just don't think he's that good of a football player. I do think he'll regress to the mean a little bit, maybe slight improvement, but I really do think there's no need to not take a receiver here.
Yeah,
So
I'm just not fearing 2025 Debo.
yeah, so Bills. There are still more edges on the board, and their needs are more defensive needs. Okay, there's not as many edges as I thought, but their needs are still defensive. You could go Maxwell Harrison here, and it's just more of a thing of like their defense in the playoffs. It just always crumbles. So defense is a need for them, whether the regular season rankings reflected or not. This is a team that's looking to win a Super Bowl. You have Josh Allen on your payroll. You are looking to win a Super Bowl. And I think the way that they address that is defense. So I will be going with Maxwell Harrison. I really do like him a lot. Really athletic, really quick, as we saw in the 40. And unlike someone like Matthew Golden, you can see he's 4.27 on tape. So I will be happy to take him.
All right, and this is a spot where adding Matthew Golden to this already decent Chiefs receiver core, especially with the return of Rasheed Rice, would be an exciting move. But I think the smart play is to go after the position that lost you the Super Bowl. Um, let's go with really anyone. I'll go with my favorite guy. I like Grace Abel, but I just think that you'd rather go for a tackle here, and I'll take the best tackle on the board, and I'll go. That's Donovan Jackson for me.
Donovan Jackson for you. Yeah, I do like Donovan Jackson a lot in this spot. I really do think a lot of Chiefs fans think we're sorted at tackle, but we did sign a backup. At the end of the day, we signed a backup,
Yeah.
so we cannot be sure what he's going to do over an entire season. Donovan Jackson has guard, tackle in his bag. He played a great season at both of those positions, so I think I like that pick a lot. For me, for the Eagles right here, Gray Zabel's in play. Would you hate that pick? I mean, Mekhi
I,
Becton left. Who's next up in
yeah,
there? I forgot
but
his name.
I mean, I don't have a problem with Tyler Steen starting. I can understand it, but I just think,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
don't
not like
have a
there's really bigger positions of need on the board. Like, I think Matthew Golden's a bigger name for sure,
yeah.
but I wouldn't be mad at taking a first round talent just to shore up that right guard side. But I think Jeff Stoutland can turn any guy into a starting caliber
Yeah,
guard.
Stoutland Mountain. What did they call it? Stoutland Mountain,
Stoutland, you.
whatever. Stoutland U. Yeah, that's good for y'all. I'm so tired of hearing that guy's name. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, for me, I'm taking Gray Zabel because Lane Johnson is gonna retire soon, and so I just think you need more guys in there. I think Tyler Steen. I mean, yes, I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, but I do think that could be a pick there. I think I like our draft this time. Oh, go away. I think
Yeah,
I
we got
like
a lot more variety, a lot more parity this time.
yeah,
I'm very happy with this draft.
yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't there's
Mhm.
no picks that I hate at all. And we got the three. Oh, we didn't get Matthew Golden in there. Okay. Well, yeah, I might have taken Matthew Golden over Emeka in this spot just because he has more ability to play outside of the slot, but I don't hate that pick at all just because Debo's going to be in that slot role. But yeah, I don't really have. Do you
Yeah,
have any?
I didn't. I don't. That was the only complaint that you had, and that was one of my picks. So honestly, I don't really have
Yeah.
anything to say about this. I'm really happy with the way this draft panned out. Maybe I'd like to reach for my favorite guy in this draft, Darian Porter at 30, but he's just likely not going to go in the first round.
Yeah, and there's a lot of parity in this draft. I've seen several experts say that there are probably 15 surefire first round guys in this draft, which is insane.
Mhm.
So I mean, like you look at the board here, Grace Abel isn't surefire, Donovan not surefire, he's not surefire, he's not surefire, Mecca isn't. I mean, it's just scattered all over the board. Nicky Manwari isn't concrete, Luther isn't concrete. Omarion is in concrete. So you just see it right here. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of chance for parity in this draft, but I'm super excited. So yeah, that'll do it for our mock draft Monday. Please go show us love on all platforms. We're trying to be consistent again. Hopefully we don't fall off the rails again. But thank you guys for watching. If you made it all the way through, we really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe so we can reach more people, and we will see you guys in the next video.